You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Hey, welcome back, Shoe and Show listeners, to another amazing edition of this program. We're so glad that you're listening in, that you're downloading, and you're subscribing, and we ask that you spread the word. Thomas Crockett's my partner in crime today because Thomas and I are going to be welcoming on the program someone who's filed a ton of intellectual property protections, a ton of patents, someone who's an innovator. And so I figured, I should have our attorney on call here, Thomas, just to make sure that you're answering all the right questions or asking the right questions of our guest. But I'm super excited that we have Monte Deere, who's the CEO of Kizik, on Shoe and Show. Monte, welcome to the program. It's been a long time coming. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Thomas. It's really great to be here with you. I've been a long time Shoe In listener, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's get right to it. One of the things we ask newbies on the program is kind of your shoe story. How did you get involved in the industry? It's an industry. It's like a vortex. It sucks you in. It's a family, and I don't think you can leave. I don't think you're permitted to leave. So you've been sucked in. How did you arrive in the shoe industry? Talk to us about your story.
Well, I got sucked in a little late, so do me a favor and don't ask me too many hard shoe questions because I'm learning every day.
Sure.
My shoe story started with our Kizik founder, Mike Pratt. And Mike he's actually best known for having founded and built a backpack and bag company called Ogio that he sold to Callaway Golf back in 2017. And one thing that's cool about Mike as our founder is he has no prior footwear experience, but he's a crazy mad scientist and a serial inventor. So, and just one more thing about him. He just looked down at his shoes. This is the kind of inventor he is, and he realized sort of a fundamental truth that shoes haven't changed, at least fundamentally how they work, haven't changed in decades. And he thought to himself, no one likes the hassle of bending down to tie their shoes, and there are many people who can't because of their circumstances. And so he envisioned a shoe technology that would allow you to simply step into a well-fitting shoe without having to make any adjustments with your hands. So Mike was selling one company. He needed a lawyer. My friend introduced me to Mike. And then maybe I'll tell you the story of when I met Mike, because it'll give you an idea of how things got started for him and for me. Mike is doing pretty well because he was selling a company. And so I showed up at this house that he had moved out of the house, and he was using it as his temporary Kizik office with just a couple of employees. And he was checking me out to see if I was sufficiently entrepreneurial for him. And he hauled me down in the basement, kind of a theater room, and there was this large bookcase with a bunch of legal boxes. Picture white legal boxes with a cardboard lid. And there were probably 20, 25 of them in this bookcase. And I looked up and I wondered what he was going to show me. He pulled box number 1 off the top. It said F1 on the front. And he pulled off the cardboard lid and dumped a handful of prototypes on the floor and said, let me show you how hands-free shoes work. And he did. He had me step into this prototype, and I was amazed. And then he said, you can see on this wall, I'm not trying to make this happen one way. We're trying to make hands-free shoes every way you can make them. So I could see I was already involved with someone who was IP savvy. And that's where it started. And my eyes opened. I was bitten right there. And actually that was in 2017. It was a couple of years later. I was his advisor and his lawyer for a while, but 2 years later, Nike came around and was knocking on the door, and I helped Mike enter into both an investment by Nike into the company and a license of our hands-free technology to Nike. So that was a moment where I got involved full time as CEO in 2019.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the shoe too? I've actually got one right here, and I love the box, the easiest shoes you'll ever put on, and I like the. I was telling Matt yesterday. You go in a lot of houses, people take their shoes off and they put them back on when they leave, or you're going outside and taking your dog out. You got to put shoes on and off all the time. So how does this actually work? And also, Matt mentioned you filed a lot of IP, a lot of patents on this. Why did you have to do that? What was the importance of that for this new technology?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll turn the question back on you, Thomas. Just think about the last time you were walking out. Maybe you're in your mud room, you're walking out the front door, and you got, I don't know, a kid in one hand, a dog leash in the other, or maybe you got two hands full of trash, and then you realize, crap, I gotta put down the stuff I'm holding and sit down and tie my shoes and then head out. And then I guess the question is this: what would happen if you never had to reach down and touch your shoes again? You had your hands, you could just step into them and go. And
That was literally me this morning, by the way. That was me. You described what just happened not long ago. So without the easiest shoes in the world that you'll put on in the world. But go ahead. Sorry.
no, yeah, no. So I mean, we are trying to revolutionize footwear to make every day easier for everyone. And I mentioned for some it's life changing. If you have Parkinson's disease and you can't reach down and your hand is shaking and you can't tie your shoe, maybe you haven't put on your shoes for a few years, but now all of a sudden it's amazing to hear someone say, "Gosh, my wife was helping me with my shoes for the last couple of years, and now I can put them on myself." That's pretty special, but it's special for everyone. I'd say everyone loves a life hack.
Mm-hmm.
What's another life hack? I mean, I'm older than you two, I can tell, but I can remember a time when I used to put a metal key in a cold car door.
It's true.
And I don't know if you remember that, but
Of course I do.
yeah, we use a key fob now,
Yeah.
and is it that we can't put a key in the door? No, it's just we're never going to do that again. Life's better the easier way, and Kizik, in a very fundamental way, because everybody wears shoes and everybody puts them on every day, multiple times. It's just if we can make that point, that friction point of life easier, it works.
And what about going in and saying, okay, we've got this technology. It's great. It could revolutionize the way you put on shoes. You do need these patents to protect that. Can you talk a little bit about that and
Sure.
why you went out and filed all these patents?
Sure. Again, the thought is, well, I would say most inventors say, I have an idea. Let's see if we can figure out the easiest way or a way to make this cool idea happen. We've just gone at it a little bit differently. The way we've gone at it is, well, there might be multiple ways we want to do this. And frankly, there might be multiple ways that our competitors want to do this. So one of the first things what I did when I became CEO of Kizik, is hire our patent attorney in-house. So he knows the prior art. In other words, there's prior art out there for years, for a century, of people trying to make hands-free shoes, but they didn't work or they weren't stylish. And so what we've tried to do is look into the white space and have this Eric Nielsen is his name. He's our in-house counsel and chief IP officer, and he just helps us innovate in white space. And we're trying to think about every way we might want to make shoes, but also to protect and discover any way that anyone else might want to make hands-free shoes. And that's just led us, into this white space that we then cover. And you can see if you look around at what we've done, and you have no idea what's coming next.
Teaser.
Yeah, we make we made a hands-free 12-inch snow boot that you can put on, walk out, snowball your driveway, take it off, never touch your feet. We sold that this last fall. In fact, we didn't make terribly many because we were trying it. We sold several thousand in about 5 hours, and they were gone. We'll bring them back around. We'll bring them back around next year.
Yeah, I need that. I'm a big skier, and there's snow all over the place right now, and so I'll love to wear test those. And as a quick commercial interjection, if you're an FDRA member and you're listening to this, we have an IP digest comes out every month where we're tracking all the design and utility patent filing and trademark filings every single month for footwear. So if you want more information on that, shoot us an email at info@fdra.org. Now, Monte, what really struck me is the timeline of this venture, right? It's 2017, it's 2019 to CEO. This wasn't that long ago, right? And so you guys have had some dramatic growth. The agreement with Nike is like the seal of approval for our industry when Nike comes along and says, hey, we want to work with you. I mean, congratulations on that. But let's talk about kind of your growth trajectory. What's the strategy, and what are you seeing on the e-commerce side, which seems to be, really one of the critical channels our brands are looking to grow and develop in direct connection with their consumers.
Yeah, when you talk about growth, when you start a company, first of all, when you start a company at age 55, or start with a founder who's already started a company, it's humbling. It's humbling to say the least. I have many friends who started companies that have succeeded, but more who have not. And so, I mean, it's never guaranteed. So we feel more than humbled to have had some growth, and we've had our what I would call, what would I call them? I'd call them fetal position moments where where we've wondered, oh my gosh, what have we done? And my wife was saying, what about that job? That law firm you've been building the last 30 years, that they paid the bills every month. But what's happened is we decided to build a few silhouettes that we thought would sell well online. And during the pandemic, we pulled back a little bit from a minimal wholesale presence. And in fact, I have expressed and will continue to express thanks to our friends who are especially independent specialty retailers out there. We told them, give us a minute, we'll be back. And I'll tell you in a minute, we are back and doing business with them again. But we just had to pull back, get our shoes right, and we started selling online. We were doing it with video. This is a new innovative technology that people had to see, conceptualize, and then give us a chance online. And our growth has been, like I said, humbling, meteoric, but humbling. And just to give you an idea, we're still a small footwear company, but we crossed the $100 million trailing 12-month mark this last year. And our growth, for a couple of years there was well over 100%. And last year was a little bit more than 40%. So just incredibly blessed to be growing in a competitive market in actually a rough set of years.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned 2023. You launched your own retail channel, your own wholesale. That seems like a pretty big year for you. How did that change things? What was the impact of that?
Well, those channels are small channels right now, especially in 23. We opened a single store in our backyard in Salt Lake City, and we in Fashion Place Mall there. And I'll just say we've been fortunate that it's been received by customers even better than we thought. Probably performing not quite twice what we thought, but remarkably well. So you'll see us in Mall of America in Minnesota and King of Prussia Mall in Philadelphia here in the next few months, and then you'll see us in 5 more this year and 30 by 2026 is our goal.
Wow.
So that's working off one store though, Thomas. So then talking about wholesale, we launched a 5-store test with Nordstrom. We're really appreciative of Casey and Randa and their team who let us launch at one of the best retail establishments in the United States, and had some great learnings, had a really great start. So we'll continue to build with Nordstrom. Then we'll launch with a couple of other department stores that we'll announce here by PR through our PR channels soon, and then dozens and dozens of our friends at Independent Specialty retailers have come back and said, let's do this. They like Kizik. So that's what's happening this next year. We just started with Nordstrom in 1 store in 23.
Wow. You're going to have to dust off the snow boots if you're in Minnesota, Philadelphia, you're already in Salt Lake. You're going to have to crank out some more of those for sure in those markets. But talk to us about the brand refresh that's coming this spring. What are the details and what can your consumers and your retail partners get excited about?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, we have some great new silhouettes coming. One major part of our growth, it's one thing to get a company started, but then to scale is sometimes mind-blowing. And so we've brought over a couple of experts we're a bunch of non-shoe dogs that have made a shoe company, and now we're grasping for help from those who've done it before.
That's a tried and true model, by the way, Monty. So good job.
You can't imagine how comforting it is to have someone like Wendy Yang come and, from Hoka and New Balance, come and join our board. She's been on our board for about 18 months. She's awesome. She's fantastic. And then when she joined us, I got a call from Gretchen Weimer, who also was at Hoka and was basically the equivalent of their chief product officer there at Hoka, and she's joined us and boy has revolutionized our plan. And so we're making great shoes. As far as our brand goes, our theme is going to be motion, because what happens with Kizik is we help people get going. I just described how you get going out of the door, and people just like a life in motion. And that's what we're trying to help our customer do. Whether she's going down the street to Starbucks or to Mesa or all the way around the world to Marrakesh, Kiziks are easy to put on and take off. And so we're trying to paint that picture, and it's not hard because we're working from the stories they tell us, that Kiziks work for my life in motion. That's where we're headed with our new brand, and you'll see us in April splashed around as we launch a couple of new silhouettes, and you'll see our messaging all over.
You mentioned your retail stores, and I understand they're maybe a little different too, and maybe this is kind of the idea of thinking outside the box, bringing in people from outside of the industry, and kind of coming up with some different ideas. I'm just curious, how is your retail experience different than other stores? And then, if I'm a customer and I come in, how are you going to get me to walk out with a pair of Kiziks?
Yeah, good question. Well, first of all, we are different in that when you walk by a store, you see a large video monitor. I think in our first store, it's 6 feet wide by 10 feet tall. And I'll sort of taking a little bit of information that we learn for how we sell online. We've got this video monitor going with people stepping into shoes and walking down the street or walking out of their house. So we catch the attention with big video. And then when someone walks in, I think the old way, the customer journey, the normal customer journey in a footwear store is you walk in, you look at the styles, you look at the colorways, you raise your hand, and the sales associate says, "Can I get a couple of pair of shoes for you to try on?" And she goes to back a house and comes back a minute later with the shoes. We try to turn that customer journey on its head. The customer's already interested in what she sees when she walks in. So the first thing we ask is, "So do you know about Kizik? What do you know?" And if she says, "Well, my friend told me to come, I have no idea," then the first thing we say is we look down at our shoes and we say, all of our shoes at Kizik are hands-free. And right there, we pull our shoes off as a sales associate, and we let them watch us put them right back on. Before she's shopped at all, we then look down and say, "What are you, 8.5, 9?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm an 8.5." And we're grabbing a clean box of 8.5 inventory off the floor and say, "Look, before you shop, let's put these shoes down here, take yours off, and step in just like this." We show them one more time with our own feet, and then we invite them to step in. And it is incredible. We're data driven. If we have a customer step into a pair of shoes at the front of our store, more than 70% of the time they walk out with a pair of new pair.
Wow, that's huge.
So, super high conversion rate.
How did you get that idea? I mean, how did you come up with that? I mean, how did you, was it just kind of brainstorming, or that seems like a really, very creative approach to selling shoes?
Yeah, I think it came up because we had done maybe a dozen events before we won a CES Innovation Award at the CES show in Vegas. So we've been down to Vegas and seen lots of people come through. And the thing we noticed the most is we would put shoes out on the floor for people to try on. And I know you can't see me on the radio, but or on a podcast, but if the look is people are looking down at their shoes as they carefully put them on. The minute their feet go in the shoes, their head pops up, and they've got their look on they've got a look on their face like, "Oh, I didn't expect that." And so we just have to replicate that. That's what sells Kiziks, and so that's why we folded it into our customer journey in our own store.
Here's a marketing tip on customer journey. You can take it or leave it. I'm a lay person, but we always talk in the industry about the shopper, and we reference her, she, what she needs, a life in motion. I'm thinking I have a vision of like a middle-aged dad like Thomas with a baby Bjorn on, a latte in one hand, the dog leash in the other, trying to get out the door in a storm in an umbrella, and sliding into Kizik and not having to worry about tying your shoes. Maybe you can bring him to CES next time and just load him up with stuff and then have him demo it for everyone walking by. I think you would sell even more shoes, particularly to guys like us.
Thomas, come by every 15 minutes, please, and just do this. Well, I think we have a lot. I have a lot of friends, and that's, there's nothing better, and I don't want to oversell, but there's nothing better than having someone who doesn't have a reason to care come up and say, "Hey, are you the Kizik guy?" Yeah, and we used to look for Kiziks in the wild and not find them, guys. We used to not find them, and now we go to the airport and we see some at least, and so it is amazing to see, like you say, someone that looks like Thomas, and they just say, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure what it is, but I can't stop wearing these shoes."
That's a great shoe for airport travelers too. I mean, if you're in the airport, you're going to take your shoes off and on, and then that's what's, I guess, tough for me is when you got, like you're talking about earlier, the picture of, carrying the trash and the dog and the kid and the backpack and everything else. And then you're potentially, got to make a decision there. All right, do I tie my shoes? Do I, take a gamble here and just slip them on and mess up the hill? I like the idea, especially for travel, for those folks that are having to take on and off their shoes.
Don't want to join TSA pre, buy some Kiziks.
Right. Exactly.
You know what? One of our favorite advertisements has been hands-free shoes we advertise in the bottom of the bins at the
I think
airport.
I've actually seen those. That's super smart. Really smart. That's really smart. Well, Monte, thank you so much for joining us. We talk a lot about, Shoe Dog and trying to be kind of coming into this family that is footwear. But the fact of the matter is we need outside innovators and thinkers to come in to become Shoe Dogs, right? And so we're so grateful that you have joined us today on the Shoe In Show program and have shared your insights. And we're big fans. We're excited about where you're headed. We ask you to come back anytime you want. And again, thanks for coming on.
May I just say that we as outsiders in the shoe industry have felt so welcomed by you and honestly by everyone who's learned our story. So thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure. Our pleasure. Now, folks, we are so grateful you've listened to this program. This is episode 409, I believe, on our journey through the industry. We ask you rate us. We only take 5 stars. There's some kind of algorithm, the FDRA algorithm, that kicks you out if you rate us below 5 stars. But rate us, share us, and make sure you come back next week because we have another exciting edition of Shoe and Show. And until then, Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.